The way I see it, your biggest fear about AI and writing shouldn't be about it becoming good enough to replace you. It should be about you being lazy enough to let it. That feeling is the single most important instinct you can have if you ask me. After months of testing different AI tools, I've confirmed that this is just a vague fear. Using them comes with a real mechanical risk to your skills. Now, in my opinion, there is a way to use these tools productively and still end up with a worthwhile result. But it requires a discipline most people aren't talking about. In this video, I want to show you the path to that discipline. And to start, we have to look at the very first thing these tools put in jeopardy: the creative muscle you build through productive struggle. You know that feeling when you're writing and you just hit a wall? Plot is tangled, the character's motivation makes no sense, or you just cannot find the right word for a sentence you've rewritten 17 times. That feeling of frustration is something we're all taught to avoid. Feels like failure. Feels like we're not good enough. But I want you to reframe that completely. Because that feeling is not a failure. It is the burn. It is the feeling of a muscle getting stronger. Every time you fight your way through a plot hole, you are literally training the part of your brain that understands story structure. Every time you wrestle with a sentence until it finally sinks, you are deepening your command of language. This is what I call productive struggle. It's the messy, difficult, and deeply human process where real skill is forged. Without that struggle, there is no growth. And this is where AI becomes so incredibly tempting. It presents itself as a machine designed to eliminate that struggle. It offers to lift the weights for you, and when you ask it to generate a first pass on a scene, it can feel like magic, because the blank page is suddenly gone, but you haven't actually gotten stronger. My experiments have shown me that this is a professional trade-off you can make, but you have to be brutally honest about what you're giving up. When you skip the initial struggle, you are taking on a creative debt. You've gotten the words on the page, but you've bypassed the very process that connects you to them. Think of it like taking out a small loan. You get the cash, the words on the page, up front, and it feels great. But that loan comes with interest. The longer you wait to pay it back with a thoughtful, human-powered rewrite, the more the scene drifts away from your original vision and the harder it is to reclaim its soul. You have to pay the debt, and the interest is paid with your time and creative energy. The way I've learned to manage this is by having a clear inventory of what that debt actually is. The moment I'm even just considering to use AI for first pass, I know for a fact that I am sacrificing at least 3 things. First, I'm giving up the happy accident. That moment of pure discovery when, in the middle of struggling with one problem, you stumble upon a brilliant, unexpected solution for another. AI is simply too logical for that. Second, I'm sacrificing some of the initial emotional connection. The bond you form with your characters by suffering through their problems with them on the page is real, and it translates into the emotional depth of the final story. And third, I'm skipping a training session for my own unique voice. The act of forcing my brain to find my words, not just any words, is what makes my writing sound like me. Now, knowing I've skipped these things doesn't mean I can never use the tool. It just means I know exactly what I need to look for in the rewrite. I have to intentionally hunt for those happy accidents, get deeper to forge that emotional bond, and be ruthless about injecting my own voice back into the prose. That's the risk to your creative muscle, and that's the discipline it takes to manage it. But this risk to your skills, as real as it is actually hiding a much deeper and more dangerous problem. This one doesn't just attack your craft, it attacks the very soul of your story. And to understand that, we first have to be honest with ourselves about why these shortcuts are so incredibly tempting in the first place. Because it's not about being lazy, it's about being human. You have a day job, you have responsibilities, you have a life that is pulling you in a dozen different directions. When you finally get a moment to write at 11 o'clock at night, you're exhausted just opening your project file. And what do you see? A mountain. You see 100 pages of notes on intricate political histories and elven dynasties. You see a folder with 3 different conflicting magic systems you haven't figured out how to merge yet. You see a main character you love, but you have absolutely no idea what they're supposed to do in the next chapter. Basically, you are drowning in your own brilliant ideas. We've all been there. It's a great paradox of being a fantasy writer. Our greatest strengths are imagination. It's also the thing that creates these overwhelming, complex worlds that are so easy to get lost in. This is the exact moment where the promise of AI feels like a lifeline. Not a weakness to feel that way. It's a completely logical response to an overwhelming problem. You are not thinking, how can I be lazy? You are thinking, how can I get some help digging out from under this mountain? The AI promises to take your sprawling, chaotic world and just give you a story. It offers to connect the dots for you. It offers clarity. And when you are lost in the fog of your own creation, clarity is the most valuable currency in the world. I get it. I have felt that exact pull. The feeling of wanting to get back to the fun part, the part where the story is actually moving forward, instead of feeling like you're just a librarian for a world that doesn't exist. I want to give yourself permission to acknowledge that feeling. It doesn't make you a bad writer. It makes you an ambitious writer who has hit the natural limit of what one person can easily hold in their head at one time. But accepting that feeling also means we have to be incredibly careful about the solution we reach for. Because reaching for a tool that promises to give you a story leads us to the most important question of all. What is the difference between the prose an AI gives you and the actual story you are trying to tell? The gap between those two things, between the words on the page and the soul of the narrative, that is where the real danger lies. And to understand that gap, I want you to think about the difference between a house and a home. An AI can build you a house, can generate the prose that acts as the walls, the roof, and the floor. It can describe the rooms, list the furniture, and tell you the color of the paint. It can give you a perfectly functional, grammatically correct structure. But it cannot make it a home. Because a home has a soul. A home is filled with the invisible stuff. The memories, the private jokes, the feeling you get when you walk through the door. It's a scratch on the floor from when you try to build a bookshelf, or the faint smell of your favorite meal that somehow never quite leaves the kitchen. It's a subtext. A story is more than a sequence of events, it's a sequence of events infused with a soul. And the AI cannot give you all of that. Only you can. Let me show you a real-world example from my own testing. I gave an AI a reasonably detailed prompt, something a writer might actually use. Write a scene where a weary knight, Sir Kalen, enters the empty throne room after a long journey. He has failed his quest to find a rare herb to save the queen. Focus on his exhaustion and his sense of failure as he approaches the empty throne. The AI came back with a few paragraphs. Here's a piece of it. Sir Kalen pushed open the heavy oak doors, the hinges groaning under the weight. The great hall was cavernous and silent, the only sound the echo of his own weary footsteps on the stone floor. Banners depicting the kingdom's victories hung from the high rafters, seeming to mock him. He walked the long path towards the throne, his armor feeling heavier with each step. The throne, carved from ancient weirwood, sat empty upon its platform, a stark reminder of his failure. Now, this isn't bad. It's actually a pretty good starting point. A house. It follows the instructions, but it is a bit generic. It tells us Kalen feels failure, but it doesn't show us a specific failure. It's just a description. This doesn't necessarily have to be scrapped. It needs to be infused with meaning. A human writer takes this raw material and starts making specific, soulful choices. So a revised vision might look like this. Kalen put his shoulders into the heavy oak door, not just pushing it, but punishing it. He welcomed the brief moment of dull pain clouding his mind as the door opened. The groan of the hinges was a familiar sound, but tonight it sounded like an accusation. He took one step onto the stone floor and stopped. His gaze went to the banners overhead, the same ones he'd helped unfurl after the victory at Blackwood Pass. Now, the woven dragon seemed to sneer at him, promising revenge. Kalen forced himself to walk on, his eyes fixed on the empty throne. Every step echoed through the great hall like a punch in the gut. He could almost see the queen's ghost sitting there, her disappointed face more terrifying than any dragon he'd ever faced. Now, what is the difference here? To me, it is the infusion of a soul. The AI gave us information. The human revision gives us meaning. The revision adds specific actions like punishing the door and connects the world to the character's personal history, such as the banners from a past victory. All that now stings with his current failure. The revision also gives us a more specific internal vision, the queen's ghost, that makes his abstract failure feel concrete and terrifying. This is the work that has to be done if such tools are meant to produce anything meaningful, at least from my point of view. It's not just about writing prettier sentences. It's about taking the generic information from the AI and filtering it through your character's unique history, perspective, and emotional state. What this means is that you have to go on a soul-finding mission to take what's inside your heart and make sure it resonates on the page. But with that said, in fantasy we have an extra layer of difficulty, which also is our greatest opportunity if you ask me. Because the soul of a fantasy story isn't just in the characters, it is in the world itself. And that is where AI truly falls apart if you're not disciplined enough to always remain in charge of what it is that you create. Picture the night sky for a moment here. Now, an AI can give you a perfect star chart. It can list every star, every planet, every nebula. It can give you an endless amount of data. But it cannot look up at that data and decide that one cluster of stars is a hunter and then create an emotional myth about why he was placed in the sky. The AI cannot invent the meaning of a constellation. A constellation is a human invention. We are the ones who draw the invisible lines between the stars to create a picture that says something emotional, that has depth. That is our job as fantasy writers. Our lore and magic systems, those are the stars. But they are just scattered points of light until we, the writer, draw the lines between them. Those lines are what I call connective tissue. It's the invisible stuff that ties your world building directly to your characters and your theme. It's what makes your world feel like a home, not just a house. And AI is terribly at this because it cannot feel. It can generate 1,000 cool ideas for a magic system, but it cannot understand how that magic system would make your specific character feel. It doesn't know that your hero who grew up poor might resent magic because it's a symbol of the power and privilege they never had. The AI just sees the magic system. The writer sees a source of conflict, a theme of inequality, a deep-seated emotional wound. That connection from the world's lore to the character's heart, that is connective tissue. It's the single most powerful tool you have to make your fantasy world feel real and resonant, because without it, your world is just a collection of cool but disconnected facts. Let me give you a simple practical way to think about this. Let's say you have a classic fantasy element, the Whispering Woods. You could ask an AI to describe it, and it would give you all the standard spooky details. Gnarled trees, swirling mist, strange noises. That's the star chart. Now you, the writer, have to create the constellation. You do that by asking one simple question. How does this piece of world building connect to my story's central theme? Let's say your story's theme is about the danger of unspoken secrets. Suddenly, the Whispering Woods aren't just spooky. The curse of the woods is that it forces anyone who enters to hear the whispers of all the secrets they've ever kept. Now the woods are more than just a location, they are a thematic crucible. Every step your character takes inside is a direct confrontation with the story's core idea. You've drawn a line from a piece of lore straight to the heart of your narrative. Again, that is connective tissue. And this does work for anything, not just for locations. Consider a magic sword. The AI can tell you it's forged from star metal and glows with a blue light. That's the star chart again. But now you, the writer, draw the lines. This time your story's theme might be about the burden of legacy. And suddenly, that sword becomes the sword your protagonist's mother used, and he resents her for the expectations she left behind. Every time he draws it, it's not just a fight scene, it's a painful argument with her ghost. The sword's blue light suddenly does more than illuminating the dark. It reminds him of her cold eyes. You see what I mean? You've connected the object to the character's internal conflict and the story's theme. Connective tissue. Knowing this is your superpower. Even when using AI, it's this thing that ensures your work will always have a depth and meaning that no machine can replicate. But knowing what you need to do, create connective tissue, is only half the battle. The other half, obviously, is figuring out how to do it, especially when you're using a tool that just wants to throw more and more disconnected stars at you. And fixing that problem requires a fundamental shift in how you see your role in the writing process. It's a simple shift in mindset, but it changes everything. You are not the co-writer with the AI. You are the architect, and the AI is your intern. This one idea is the key to using this tool safely and effectively, if you ask me. The architect is the visionary. The architect designs the emotional blueprint of the story. They decide on the theme, they map out the character arcs, they are in charge of the why. The intern is a brilliant, incredibly fast, but very little-minded assistant. The intern handles the grunt work. The intern handles the what. Let me break down what that looks like in practice. The intern is perfect for objective, low-stakes tasks that have no soul. This is the safe zone. You can ask your intern, give me a list of 20 fantasy names for a port city, or summarize these 3 pages of my notes into bullet points, or even check this paragraph for repetitive words. These are all incredibly helpful tasks that save you time and mental energy, freeing you up to focus on the deeper, more important work. This is using the tool smartly. The danger zone, the trap, is when you start treating the intern like a co-writer. This happens the moment you take the AI's creative output and treat it as a finished product. When you ask it to write a scene where my character is sad, and then you just copy and paste that into your manuscript, you have let the intern make architectural decisions. You've let the machine do the soul-finding mission for you. This is the path to lazy writing. It's a path to a story that looks like a story but feels hollow, like a house with no one living inside. The pro-level move here, the one that requires real discipline, is to always stay in the architect's chair at all times. This is how you can use AI to generate a first pass without sacrificing your story's soul. You, the architect, first create the emotional blueprint for the scene. And that blueprint doesn't even have to be complicated. It can be as simple as answering 3 questions before you even think about prompting the AI. 1. What does my point of view character want at the start of the scene? 2. What are they afraid of? And 3. What is the one single feeling I want the reader to be left with when this scene is over? Answering those 3 questions gives you your blueprint. It gives you the why that the AI cannot provide. You know the subtext, the history, the specific feeling your character is wrestling with. Then you can turn to your intern and give it a detailed prompt, asking it to generate the raw block of marble we talked about. Once the AI gives you that raw material, your job as the architect begins again. You go through that draft line by line, just as we did with Sir Kalen, and you infuse it with the meaning you designed from the start. You add the specific details that reveal character, you rewrite the generic descriptions to reflect your story's theme. You ensure every action and every line of dialogue serves the emotional blueprint you created. The AI provides a scaffold, but you are the one who builds the actual story onto it. This is a fundamental choice you have to make. Are you going to be the architect in complete control of the emotional core of your story, or are you going to let the intern do the building for you? Because your answer to that question will define the kind of writer you become as soon as you decide to interact with these tools. If you've decided you want to be the architect, then you need a blueprint. You need a reliable system for turning your incredible world into a story with a soul, a story you can actually finish. If you've ever felt that pain of having a world full of stars but no constellations, being stuck with amazing ideas but no clear plot, then this next video is the one you've been waiting for. In it, I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step framework I use to outline every fantasy novel from scratch. The same emotional first system I share with the writers I coach. So click on this video now and let's turn you into the architect your story deserves.